Welcome back to Think and Speak podcast. I'm Emma Collins, and with me is the ever-insightful Mr. Daniel Miller. Today, Daniel, we're diving into something that can literally change how people speak English.
Absolutely, Emma. Speaking English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about mindset. The way you think influences the way you speak.
That sounds fascinating. But Daniel, why do so many learners struggle even after studying for years?
Great question. Most learners focus too much on perfection. They worry about mistakes, and that fear actually blocks fluency. What we want is a mental shift, from fearing errors to embracing communication. Once that happens, English becomes natural, not stressful.
So you're saying it's not just grammar or words, it's about changing how we think.
Exactly. And in today's episode, we'll explore practical strategies that professional speakers use, including modern phrases, sentence patterns, and mindset exercises. By the end, our listeners won't just learn English, they'll feel confident speaking it.
That's exciting. Listeners, if you want to speak English naturally and confidently, hit that like button and comment below with your biggest English speaking challenge. Daniel, many learners feel nervous when speaking English. How can changing their mindset actually help them speak more fluently, instead of just memorizing words and rules?
Emma, this is one of the most crucial points in modern language learning. Fluency isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or studying grammar tables, it's about your mental approach. When learners focus only on correctness, they create anxiety, hesitation, and even blocks in their speech. A mental shift involves thinking, I'm communicating ideas, not producing perfect sentences. For example, instead of saying, I have never went to Paris, a learner may worry endlessly about the irregular verb, went. But with a confident mindset, they might simply say, I haven't been to Paris yet, which is grammatically correct and flows naturally. Here, grammar matters, but confidence matters more. Modern English learning emphasizes phrases and patterns, not just isolated words. Using chunks like, I think that, in my experience, or it depends on, helps learners speak smoothly. By repeating these mental and linguistic patterns, speaking becomes automatic. Another key element is self-talk. Learners should tell themselves, mistakes are part of learning, which reduces anxiety. Studies show that learners who focus on communication instead of perfection speak faster and more naturally. In short, fluency comes from a mindset shift, prioritizing communication, embracing errors, and practicing real conversational patterns. Grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation then serve your communication, not hinder it.
That makes sense. But Daniel, how can learners practice English thinking patterns to sound natural, especially when they feel stuck mid-sentence?
Emma, feeling stuck mid-sentence is extremely common. The solution is not to freeze and search for the perfect word, but to develop flexible thinking patterns, what I call mental scaffolding. One effective method is using sentence starters and connecting phrases. For example, phrases like, well, I guess that, actually, I think, or that's a great question because, allow learners to gain time while forming ideas. This approach reduces hesitation and creates smooth transitions between thoughts. Another modern technique is thinking in English, rather than translating from your native language. Learners can start with small, daily exercises. For instance, narrate your actions in English. I'm making coffee. I'm checking my emails. I'm writing a message to a friend. These microhabits train your brain to think in English, improving fluency and reducing pauses. Grammar becomes practical here. For example, the present continuous, I am doing, is not just a rule, it becomes a tool for describing real-time actions. Similarly, using modal verbs, can, should, might, naturally expresses possibility or advice, I might try that restaurant, instead of worrying about exact structures. Finally, listening and shadowing help reinforce patterns. By mimicking native rhythm, stress, and intonation, learners internalize natural structures. Over time, these strategies help the brain automatically produce sentences, so feeling stuck diminishes. The key takeaway: mental scaffolding, thinking in English, and using functional grammar turns hesitation into fluent, natural speech.
Daniel, vocabulary is huge, but learners often forget words. How can a mental shift help them remember and use words confidently in conversation?
Emma, vocabulary is essential, but memorization alone rarely works. The mental shift comes from thinking of words as tools for communication, not as test items. When learners connect new words to experiences, emotions, or mental images, they remember them much more effectively. For instance, instead of memorizing ambiguous from a dictionary, imagine a conversation. His instructions were ambiguous, so I asked him to clarify. Here, the word is embedded in context. Modern learners should create mini dialogues using new words. This reinforces both meaning and grammatical usage. Phrases matter as much as single words. Learning vocabulary in chunks, on the other hand, as far as I know, to be honest, teaches both meaning and sentence structure. This reduces the mental load during conversation. Another strategy is active retrieval. Instead of passive repetition, learners should write or speak sentences with new words. For example, if the word is innovative, try, our team came up with an innovative solution to the problem. Repetition in meaningful context strengthens memory. Grammar is integrated naturally here. Knowing whether a word is a noun, verb, or adjective allows instant correct usage. He's innovative versus he innovates. This awareness prevents hesitation. Finally, the mindset shift. Don't fear mistakes with new words. Learners should tell themselves, even if I use it imperfectly, I'm practicing. Confidence accelerates usage. In essence, connecting vocabulary to context, practicing in sentences, and embracing mistakes transforms passive words into active, confident communication tools.
Daniel, many learners say they know grammar but still struggle to speak naturally. How can a mental shift make grammar easier to use in conversation?
Emma, this is a classic challenge. Many learners study grammar rules in isolation, past tense, conditionals, or phrasal verbs, but when they speak, these rules seem to vanish. The mental shift involves viewing grammar not as a set of rigid rules but as a communication tool. For example, take the conditional sentence. Instead of memorizing the structure, if plus past simple, would plus verb, learners can think, I'm talking about an imaginary situation. A simple sentence like, if I had more time, I would travel more, demonstrates intention, not perfection. By connecting grammar to real-life situations, learners internalize patterns. Chunking is also essential. Phrases like, I would love to, I should probably, and I might consider, combine grammar with practical speech. This makes the sentence automatic, so learners focus on meaning rather than form. Another strategy is grammar in motion. Practice speaking short sentences with correct grammar repeatedly. For instance, using the present perfect, I have just finished my homework, or I've never tried sushi before. Over time, this pattern becomes intuitive. Finally, learners should embrace mistakes. Self-correction is part of natural speech. Thinking, grammar is my helper, not my enemy, changes anxiety into confidence. The mental shift allows grammar to serve fluency rather than block it.
Daniel, pronunciation often makes learners hesitant. How does changing their mindset improve pronunciation and overall speaking confidence?
Emma, pronunciation is closely tied to confidence. Many learners fear sounding wrong, and consequently speak quietly or avoid speaking altogether. The mental shift here is realizing that communication matters more than perfect accents. Fluent speakers focus on being understood, not mimicking every sound. Practical strategies include listening and imitation. Shadowing native speakers, repeating phrases as they speak, helps internalize stress, intonation, and rhythm. For example, saying, I can't believe it, with the same intonation as a native speaker improves both pronunciation and expressiveness. Another important mindset element is breaking down complex sounds. English has tricky vowel pairs, consonant clusters, and silent letters. Learners should practice these systematically while remembering, small improvement is progress. Phrases like think about, though, and through become easier with focused repetition. Grammar also plays a role. Linking words naturally in speech, called connected speech, improves clarity. Instead of pronouncing I'm going to separately, learners say I'm gonna, which is both grammatically informal and natural. Finally, embracing mistakes and practicing aloud builds confidence. Mental reframing, from fear of errors to seeing errors as stepping stones, reduces hesitation and allows learners to focus on fluency. Pronunciation improves automatically when confidence leads speech, not perfectionism.
Daniel, learners often hesitate to start conversations. How can a mental shift help them initiate English dialogue without fear?
Emma, hesitation comes from overthinking and fear of judgment. The mental shift is realizing that English is a tool to connect, not a performance to impress. Thinking, I'm talking to a person, not an examiner, makes a huge difference. To start conversations, learners can memorize practical opening phrases. Hi, how's your day going? I was wondering if you could help me with. Or, did you see the news about? These provide a bridge into natural dialogue and reduce mental pressure. Another strategy is preparation with sentence patterns. For example, instead of worrying about exact grammar, use flexible phrases, I think, in my opinion, have you ever? This approach combines structure and spontaneity. Mental rehearsal is crucial. Learners imagine conversations in English before real situations, practicing both questions and responses. This strengthens confidence and creates a mental muscle memory for speaking. Grammar and phrases are applied naturally here. Using polite modals like could, would, and might encourages smooth, confident interactions. Could you tell me? Would you like to join? Finally, learners should embrace imperfection. Every attempt is a learning opportunity. A mindset focused on connection rather than correctness transforms fear into proactive, confident speaking. The mental shift allows conversations to flow naturally, even if every word isn't perfect.
Daniel, finally, how can learners maintain this mental shift consistently to make English speaking a long-term habit?
Emma, maintaining a mental shift requires daily practice and self-awareness. First, learners should set realistic goals. Instead of aiming for perfect English, aim to communicate effectively. Daily exposure, listening, reading, speaking, and thinking in English, reinforces the mindset. Mental framing is key. Remind yourself, mistakes are signals, not failures. For instance, if someone misunderstands you, it's a chance to clarify and expand vocabulary. I meant that. This reframes errors as learning opportunities. Active practice is essential. Speak with friends, record yourself, or join online conversation groups. Focus on using sentence chunks and modern phrases. As far as I know, I guess that, to be honest. Over time, these become automatic, reducing hesitation. Grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation are integrated naturally into this process. For example, using present perfect to describe experiences, I've traveled to 3 countries, or using phrasal verbs, I ran into an old friend. Applying rules in real contexts makes them easier to internalize. Finally, learners should reflect weekly. Ask, did I focus on communication over perfection? Journaling or speaking aloud reinforces mindset. Consistency transforms temporary confidence into habitual fluency. The mental shift, from fear of mistakes to embracing communication, ensures long-term, natural English speaking.